Sephora's biggest sale of the year is on. Get 20% off the best gifts, including makeup from brands like Rare Beauty.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
20% off skincare from brands like Glow Recipe and Summer Fridays.
These are my fave.
20% off hair care like Way and K18.
I'm obsessed.
And 20% off fragrances like Valentino, Donna, Born, and Roma.
So good.
20% off your purchase, now through December 15th. Shop now at Sephora and Sephora at Kohl's.
The sounds of the season can often sound like this.
So, when are we getting some grandkids?
But with Hilton's Season to Stay sale, they could sound a bit more like this. Or this. Stay and save up to 20% off when you book before January 5th at Hilton.com. Hilton, for the stay. Minimum 2-night stay required. Excludes luxury and all-inclusive properties. Terms and conditions apply.
Good morning, guys, and welcome to the podcast. I've got Brad Smotherman here coming out from Florida, and he's the CEO at Fair Offer Cash Now. He's in the real estate industry. We're going to hear about all the work that he's doing with the company, and I'm really interested in picking his brain about real estate, where the current market is, and just kind of his thoughts. And I'm really happy to bring him on. So, Brad, welcome.
Christopher, appreciate you having me on very much.
Yeah. So, briefly, talk about, just your journey, and we'll dive right into the discussion and conversation.
Yeah. So I got started in real estate when I was 17. I decided fresh out of high school, I was going to get my real estate license. And so at one point in the state of Tennessee, I was the youngest licensee in the state. Then I found out what I didn't know about real estate, and that's everything. Right. And so here I am, I'm trying to cold call my friends from high school to sell them a house, and I'd say, "Hey, John, it's Brad. How's your summer, man? Hey, great. Let's go look at 123 Elm Street." And they'd say, "Well, Brad, what's going on at 123 Elm Street? Is there a party? Are there any girls there? Like, what's going on?" I said, "Man, we need to create a portfolio of investment for you. You're a young guy, smart guy. Let's go look at this house." And of course, that didn't work very well because nobody in my peer group was looking to buy a house. But I did sell one house in 6 months. I made $1,827, and I have the 1099 to prove it for anybody that doesn't believe such an amazing figure. So then I went through college, got my undergraduate degree in accounting, and started to do the investing side of real estate in 2010. I retired my real estate license, having never done an investment deal, but I had to burn the ships, burn the bridges, and really focus on the single family space. And we've been doing that ever since. So I started with $300 in the bank, and I've since built a company. We bought and sold property, single family mostly, all over the Southeast. I think we've bought and sold, I believe, in 39 states, or at least bought in 39 states. And we're having a lot of fun.
Yeah, really interesting. And so what I really want to talk about is kind of this transition, because a lot of people get their career started in real estate sales, or they flip houses. So what prompted you to go from, the sales and kind of the flipping, or not, you weren't flipping, but kind of that kind of area, to more like passive investing?
Yeah, well, in college, I had a builder developer from my church that was the first person that I'd ever really known that had both time and money. So as I grew up, I was around a lot of people that had a lot of time and no money. And I'd met a couple of people that had money and no time, but he was the first person that I saw that had both, but he was an investor. And so I saw a lot of people in the sales industry and realtors that were doing fairly well. I thought that they were doing exceptionally well, making $200, $300, $400K a year, but they didn't have their time. They never really owned a business. But here, this developer, he could float in his pool all day and develop lots and sell lots, because he wasn't the one actually doing the work. And so that's really was I would say my second rich dad, poor dad moment, where I thought, wait, let's not go and just work for the money. Let's own something that produces. And from there, I only had three major problems on what I was, in terms of what I'd set out to do, which was, I had to own something. I had to be an investor. I wanted to own something, not just sell it. But I had no capital. I had no extendable credit, and I really didn't know where to start. And so I found a mentor who today has become a great friend of mine. We talk very regularly. His name's David Alexander, based out of Dallas. And he taught me, the beginnings of deal structure, creative finance, real estate, cash flow, notes, owning something, and but keeping your cash and credit on the sidelines. And so that was really the turning point for me in terms of going from completely struggling to actually starting to build something.
Mm. Yeah, and I really, because it brought up so many different talking points which we could pivot from. First thing you talked about is this. What is the difference? What is the difference in mindset between real estate sales and a real estate investor?
So I think it's generally, I would say it's more short-term versus long-term focus. So I think the salesperson is just trying to get to the next deal because they're transaction focused. They're trying to get to the next commission check, and they never, very few, I would say, actually are able to really build a business that is its own asset. Whereas when you're an investor, you really want to hold long-term assets. So you want assets long-term. And if you look at real estate, I think it's probably, in terms of an asset class, I would dare say the most stable asset, because prices, it takes a long time for prices to reset. But if you look at holding a single family asset for 10 years, it's very, very, very rare that it's not going to be worth more 10 years from now than today. And then you have the cash flow over time, it produces rents. And so you also have multiple exit strategies with single family as well, where if you have a stock, you can hold it or you can sell it. You have the bond, you can hold it, you can sell it. And so, I think that that's really an advantage. But in terms of the difference between a salesperson and an investor, I think it's just a focus of, holding long-term assets versus just trying to get to the next deal.
Mm-hmm. And adjacent question I have for you is, there's this camp where basically, because I know a lot of, some of my colleagues, they're single family investors. Essentially, I think there's the connotation of being a landlord there's a negative connotation, and there's like the tenants, toilets, and the trash. And I was talking with another guest the other day, and he was like, yeah, this concept of landlord, you're not going to make much money. You're going to own a lot of properties, but maybe like 200, 300 per month extra, extra cash flow or whatever, but you get hit by a hurricane, or, tenant, sues you or something, just something catastrophic, you're SOL. Whereas like if you're in sales, or you're like in developing, or you're flipping, you have that cash flow. So is it profitable to be a landlord, or is there better strategies?
Well, I'd say yes, which is to both questions. So here's my take on it. I think that rentals are a really great place to store wealth and a very tough place to create it, because it's truly a very, very long game. So I believe in a holistic viewpoint of the real estate business, which means that we generally stay away from the words always and never. So I don't believe that we should always hold rentals. I don't believe that we should never hold rentals. I think that there's a place for fixing and flipping. I think that there's a place where my main cash flow strategy historically has been creating notes. So instead of having a rental, we have mortgage notes, and we're paid like a bank is. So then we get away from the tenants and toilets and trash, like you sort of talked about, right? Yeah. Because if you have a mortgage on your house and you own it and the HVAC goes out, you don't call Bank of America. You call the HVAC person, because you own it. It's your liability. Yeah. And so I think that that's certainly a better strategy in terms of truly passive income, and certainly higher leverage in terms of time and capital. But most people don't really understand the note business, and I think it's something that is a hidden jewel in the real estate world.
Yeah, it's and I really love I really love your allusion to real, like, if you're going to be a landlord, it's kind of like a place to just store your wealth. It's not a place to like make money. Cause like, again, your profit margins are very thin. It's almost like a restaurant, kind of thing. But I love how you think like your mind shift to abundance, you're talking about notes and, kind of different strategies. A couple of guests, they were talking about multifamily or apartments. And, so, there's also, with the recent NAR lawsuit settlement, kind of realtors' commissions are cut in half now. And so, you have to mind shift to abundance. So seeing your mentor's lifestyle sparked a mindset shift for you. What other mindset adjustments have been crucial in your journey to become a successful investor?
The sounds of the season can often sound like this.
So, when are we getting some grandkids?
But with Hilton's season to stay sale, they could sound a bit more like this. Or this. Stay and save up to 20% off when you book before January 5th at Hilton.com. Hilton, for the stay. Minimum 2-night stay required. Excludes luxury and all-inclusive properties. Terms and conditions apply.
Every day, supporters like you help the American Cancer Society improve the lives of people with cancer. Help end cancer as we know it for everyone. Visit cancer.org to make a life-saving gift.
There's been a few. I mean, one of the main ones is the real estate business. The way that we do it is really a marketing and sales business. And so what I mean by that is unless we have truly motivated people that have a big problem in their life that the real estate is associated with, then we're generally not going to be able to buy the equity position that we really want to buy. So what I mean by that is, we want people that are, if they're going through a foreclosure, if they're in a divorce, if they are in probate, if they are a tired landlord, which actually is one of our big 5 motivators, or there's a health or safety issue, then these are people that have big life circumstances that dictate generally that they have to sell the property. And so if we're in a situation where somebody's coming to us saying, hey, I need to sell something, can you buy it? Then that's a position that we want to be in. And so because of that, it's a sales and marketing business with a real estate arm. It's not truly a real estate business, and this is why I generally try to stay away from fix and flips, because at that point, the core business actually becomes a construction business, So there was one point, man, I don't remember now. It was either like 58 or 65 or something houses going at one point all over the Southeast. And whenever that happens, man, you've got bad news, damn, every 36 minutes, all the time. It's this broke, this contractor got put in jail. These guys are fighting. Dude, in my career, I had a group of homeless people that we kicked out of a house one time. They got mad. They tried to arson our house. Just run into this stuff. And it's highly distracting, and it's not good core business. But anytime you can buy the equity as opposed to build the equity, then you're going to be in a much stronger position. And that comes from the sales and marketing side. So that was a mindset shift for sure. But secondly, I would say that almost every big win that I've ever had has come at the point that I wanted to quit, and I kept going. And the first time that I saw that was right before my first deal, but I've since seen it another 4 or 5 times. And when I say that, and I'm probably going too long on the question, I'm sorry about that. But when I say that, I don't mean I'm kind of thinking about quitting. I mean, you're David Goggins, you've ran 79 miles on Cheetos and both broken legs, and you don't think you can take another step, but you just keep going. And I've seen that my biggest wins are almost always shortly after that. So every time I feel like I'm in that scenario, I'm like, man, we're about to have a breakthrough, because nobody's going to keep going through this, but us. So, two big mindset shifts there.
Yeah. It's like Tony Robbins said, he's like, when you're at the point of just frustration, then it's just it's like a signal that you're going to have a, epiphany or breakthrough, or just where you're just ready to throw in the towel. That's when, you're going to get your, so I really love that. And I love the mindset shift. The other question I had for you, because you mentioned earlier that if you're in real estate sales, you're they're one-to-one, and it's very transactional. There are realtors that I've had, they've actually built a team of realtors, and they've actually been able to scale that. And how has marketing just played a big role? Because you mentioned marketing, and, what strategies have been most effective for finding deals, and is your marketing strategy evolving, especially with technology and AI and these Airbnb, these platforms?
Yeah. So whenever I started back in 2010, I was 23 years old, and, I didn't have enough money to really market. So I'd buy those ugly "We Buy Houses" signs and put them up everywhere, and then pick them up early Monday morning before the city code officials came out to get them and find me. And that worked up until about 2014. And then the market started to get a lot better. And so at that point, I shifted to direct mail, and it got to where, I don't know if we were the biggest mailers in Tennessee in the space, but I'd say it's possible that we were. We were doing about 70,000 letters a month to different kinds of lists. And that became very inefficient, meaning that, you send out 70,000 letters a month. I would have 2 full-time people and 1 part-time person on the phone dealing with 1/3 of the phone calls being angry that you mailed them, 1/3 being belligerent with their price, and then 1/3 being somewhere in the realm of just reasonableness. So it was very, very inefficient. And so then I switched sometime in 2019 or so, maybe 2018, into search marketing, so online search platforms. And so being in a position where someone is like, I had a scenario one time, this lady typed in, "Sell my house before I burn it down." Okay. And of course we bought that house, but that is a motivated person. And so, and now we're at roughly generally 11 to 12 leads per contract. So if 12 people reach out to be contacted, you get in contact with 70% of those. So let's just call it 8 people that you get in contact with, and then you buy 1 house. So it's very, very efficient. And, because people are reaching out to you to sell you something, as opposed to you reaching out to them to buy something, the margins are actually better. So that's what we've been doing very, very strongly for a good 5-6 years.
Yeah. Um, yeah. The next question I have for you is, cause if I've looked at I've been real estate since 99. And then I really got into it, post 2008. And I really saw the best growth was like 2008 to about 2018. And now it's kind of like, people are talking real estate, people are talking like multifamily, and then you've got like, you got interest rates and inflation, and, people are still enthusiastic about real estate. And, another part is like, yeah, real estate is too expensive, and, there's better opportunities, plus there's climate change, and just, kind of, it's like becoming more and more prohibitive to invest in it, just because it's not what it used to be. So how do you see real estate investing landscape changing next decade? What emerging trends, especially AI and data centers? I'm really curious.
Well, here's the thing, man. The way that we do the business, we're in a market to buy and a market to sell. So a lot of times I'm buying a house, I'm selling it with owner finance. And if that's the case, then those are inversely related markets, meaning, it's either a really good market to buy and difficult to sell, or vice versa. So being that, I don't really care what the market, where it is. I just care about where it's going. In other words, I don't want to hold a bunch of houses that I think are going to go retail, and then we're transitioning to more of a buyer's market, which it does appear that potentially we are right now. Now, as we're recording this, we're a week away from the election. So that throws a lot of cold water on buyer activity. Then we go into the holidays. That historically throws a lot of, slows down the buyer activity in the market, but supply is increasing. But I don't think we're in a bad market. Now here's what I don't know, man. And I don't think anybody does, which is, what is AI going to do to all of this? You can go to Amazon right now and buy like these prefab houses that we're actually set to take a trip to Las Vegas to go and look at some of these, because you can buy these, and with a small crane, you can have them set up in a day, and they're fully functional, and they're like 40 grand, And so, they don't meet code specifically, but potentially they would for like a manufactured mobile, and they look a lot better than what like a lot of the stuff Clayton is putting out. And this is just the beginning of AI. And I think that real estate is a dinosaur industry that has not really been disrupted. You look at Open Door tried to change the way that real estate has been done in the US, and all they've effectively been able to do is lose money, and so I don't know what's going to happen with that, but I don't think that we should be so naive to expect that potentially housing the way it has been done historically will become completely obsolete. And I don't have an answer to that. I just don't know. Is it that housing becomes so cheap with 3D printing that it's not even truly an asset? I don't know. I wish I knew, man.
Yeah, no, I'm always asking because it's interesting, because like last year AI never came in, and then this year I was like, AI specific, but now I'm asking like, how is AI going to affect like your industry? It's becoming that pervasive. And along those same lines, because you mentioned real estate is just kind of like a dinosaur industry. Same thing with healthcare, very inefficient. And what are your thoughts on I've always wanted to ask, real estate investors, what are your thoughts on the blockchain improving efficiency, like with transactions and trust. And I'm just, I'm curious for your thoughts.
Yeah. So it's really interesting, man. I was talking to Jack Sternberg, who I believe is historically a thought leader on single family real estate specifically. And he was like, Brad, man, you can go and buy a $400,000 Rolls Royce and, put down a down payment, get a loan, and drive out of there same day or maybe next day.
Yeah.
But a $400,000 house, somehow it still takes 45 days for title, loans, like all of this stuff. Why is that? When the house is a better asset than the rolling depreciating asset? And I have no answer to that. But I do think that blockchain is potentially going to change and should change that. It's just that I think, housing and real estate has been historically resistant to change. And, it still is almost a dinosaur industry. And I think it'll be one of the last ones to allow some of this stuff to happen. But I think it's inevitable. And it has to, title work, and it has to change things for the better.
Yeah. And especially just the mortgage process is just I can just give examples where I was like, no, I'm not going to waste it. I'll just, get up front, raise the money and pay up front. It's so much faster and just going through all this nonsense, all these hoops and hurdles. But that's another discussion. But how can people find you and follow you and reach out to you and work with you?
Yeah, for sure. So hit me up on the Insta. We're also on the TikTok. Investor Creator. And then email for me is brad@investorcreator.com.
And thanks so much for coming on and sharing your experience and wisdom, and keep up the great work.
Thank you, man. I enjoyed it very much.